In the last episode of 4 Stars Only, I asked you guys for your opinions on the teams that I'm working on. Why did I start going Southern? I do not know. But I've read through basically every single comment on that video, so I have definitely seen your opinions. And as just a quick reminder, these are the 2 teams in question. Now, it seemed like a lot of people did not have any problems with this team, other than saying that Ino does not need Tribed leveled above like level 20. But they also went on to say how Sucrose does not need ER, which I don't really agree with, or talent upgrades, just VVEM and level as high as possible. But of course, that was followed immediately by someone else saying that level 60 is as high as you even need to bring Sucrose. So I guess I don't even need to bother with getting the rest of her boss oh, no, wait, this person says I need to get her to level 90 as well. But then if we move on to Sucrose's weapon, we had some people saying that I should use the R5 instead. Now, just to explain my reasoning here, obviously, yes, Thrilling Tales is good for her for buffing our main damage dealer, but we see how scattered my brain is when I do a rotation now, right? With this weapon, I have to make sure I'm doing my rotation with the correct characters at the correct time with this 20-second cooldown, so I'm probably going to end up missing that buff quite a bit. Additionally, that lowers our energy recharge by a decent amount, and since we're not C1, we're not getting a bunch more particles by using her skill again, which means it's going to be even harder to get a burst. Then finally, the more elemental mastery that Sucrose has, the more elemental mastery the rest of the team gets, which means bigger numbers. Now, that's not to say that this isn't the better weapon, I just don't know if I'm a good enough player to make the best use of it, or if I can pull off the stats required to not need an energy recharge weapon with EM substats. So I guess that's just a decision that we'll have to make going forward for this team, or not, because this person says that Melt Gaming is going to be better. And they go on to suggest Gaming with Bennett on the team, then 2 cryo characters, either Rosaria, Diona, or Leila. I feel like Rosaria is such an obvious choice here, and that would leave us with a decision between Diona or Leila. If we look at Diona's talents here, duration of the burst, 12 seconds, cooldown 20, and that is with an 80 burst cost. For Leila's burst, the cooldown 12 seconds, duration 12 seconds, energy cost 40. So for consistent cryo application, Leila would probably be better. So we can slot her as the last character on this team, and boom, we have our team. Or do we? Because somebody else says that we should swap that second cryo character for an Eon Sun instead. Now, I understand what they're going for. This is more buffing for our Gaming. Obviously, it does raise the energy recharge requirements for Rosaria quite a bit, and since we do not have her constellations, we're losing 4 seconds on the burst, meaning we do have quite a bit of downtime. And so at least for now, I think we really do need to stick with 2 cryo characters. Now that I'm watching this back while editing, I do realize I kind of want to try this team out. So later in the video, I think that we're going to do that. And that's okay, because someone else also said to do the same team that I had before, where we slot Leila back in. So this should be good to go. Oh no. Putting Sucrose instead of Kaya or Leila would actually be better. Okay, it seems that someone wants me to swap in Sucrose again. Although this person seems quite disappointed in me that I'm using Gaming instead of Xianling when she exists. I don't know about you, but this is starting to look like a team that a lot of people have probably seen before. I do want to build Xianling at some point on this account, but I also just don't want to rely entirely on the 4-star meta teams. I want to at least try to do some different things first. Okay, your ideas are not terrible, but they are not good either. Here is why. Oh, wow, they must really not be good. You guys can pause and read everything that they said if you want, but essentially what they're saying is that we should be running a Gaming Melt team and focusing on energy recharge first for a smooth rotation. And you know, a great artifact set for Kaya, if we're going to be focusing on energy recharge, would be Emblem of Severed Fates. Oh, I'm sorry, but what are you doing? Kaya on the ER set? Why? That's a beginner fault. Covering face with hands emoji. Give him some attack scaling pieces 2 or 4 set anything better than the SF. Besides, you don't need Leila's shield when the enemies cannot move. Please, I beg you, do him some justice. Sad crying emoji. So we have people telling me to focus on energy recharge. We have people telling me to not focus on energy recharge and just focus on the damage. We have a bunch of different team suggestions. Overall, it seems like you guys don't think my ideas were that good, except for this person who said what I am doing is smart. So shout out to that person. Also, shout out to the person who said you know is better than I know. So just to be clear, you're telling me that this character is better than this character? You're saying she is better than her. Yeah, you know, I'd have to agree. Unless you were trying to say you know more than I know, in which case what just happened? Thank you, Paimon. But yeah, if that's what you're trying to say, then that's clever, and I can appreciate that. While I'm stuck in this cutscene, I guess what we really need to decide on is Leila or Kaya for the Gaming Melt team. One point of consideration is that we're probably never gonna get a constellation for Kaya. His C2 is really nice. Of course, if you're against a boss, it's not really gonna do much, but some of the other constellations are pretty good. However, Kaya is already level 70 with some level talents, and Leila level 1 talents, level 20. There are pros and cons to using either character. If we do use Leila, like someone had mentioned, we could put the instructor set on her. As we saw from one of those recommendations, someone was saying that it's better if we focus for now on getting enough energy recharge or particle generation. So they had suggested using an energy recharge weapon on Gaming or an energy recharge artifact, but we know artifacts are a little bit harder to get than the weapon, especially considering I already have the Favonius Greatsword, which means we are losing the elemental mastery. Of course, the secondary effect wouldn't apply as much or at all in Melt anyways, which would then kind of lend itself towards actually using Leila with the instructor set. That way we still do have some form of elemental mastery bonus, because I don't think 35 is gonna cut it. Right now, Rosaria has the Favonius Lance as well. In an ideal world where we have enough energy, we could swap her to the catch for some extra damage on her part, but like that person mentioned, for now, we're gonna focus first on getting a smooth rotation. Unfortunately, I do not have a Favonius sword. I do have one Acquaint Fate that could potentially give us a blue. Since we'd be using either Kaya or Leila, we could just run this weapon for now. That way, if we level it up, we're not really wasting any resources. Though with a 40 energy cost burst, I'm not so sure that we would need an ER Sands as well, though we'll see. However, if I do go for the instructor set, like I had mentioned, that's gonna be another character that needs it in addition to Ino. And you could probably see this one coming. I know that that's gonna be kind of annoying to farm for. Well, perhaps not farm for specifically, because you can't really do that. We just have to hope that they drop for us. I think this domain's gonna open up in an hour, so I should be able to farm there. Unfortunately, because we're leveling 2 Favonius weapons, we kind of need most of the same drops. I should also work to max level Bennett's weapon, as that'll give him some more base attack and thus more buffing. I'm curious to see. Right now, Leila has no artifacts equipped and has no energy. If I just put up her shield, we pretty much, well, we get no energy from that. But what if Rosaria just does some Rosaria stuff on field? We put up her burst. How much does Leila get? Not very much. I was just trying to see how little ER we could get away with, but it seems that we're probably gonna want at least a little bit more. However, before I get carried away farming random enemy drops, my resin is completely capped, so I need to find something to spend that on. None of these stinking little talent domains that I need to farm are open today, but I figure, you know what? We're always gonna need more weekly boss drops, as long as I can stop my resin from being capped at 200 out of 200. And as always, the child weekly boss fight is so nice and easy. Ooh, free gemstone? Thanks to some bonuses from crafting, I have exactly enough of what I need to get Rosaria's skill up to level 8. Her talents are kind of done for right now. 8 is where we've been leaving the talents as we level the important ones. And you know what? Maybe I'll get Bennett's skill just to level 4, because we do need to mix it into the rotations. So we might as well have it do a little damage, and you know, level 6. It's not super important. I'm not gonna worry about getting it to 8. While we are at the crafting table, we'll get what we need to ascend this weapon again and say goodbye to most of our weapon XP. That's 3 of the weapons we're gonna use on this team up to level 80. Gaming's is only 70, so we're gonna focus the rest of our XP into this one. But I obviously do need to do some farming. So far, I still haven't committed anything specifically to Leila, because I'm in kind of a weird spot where I want to test her on the team before I actually commit to building her for the team, but there's not really a way to do that. As we know, Leila's burst is only going to target one enemy at a time, so I have to make sure that I'm hitting said one enemy, or else I'm going to be missing out on all of the melts that I need. Of course, Kaya's not perfect either, because as soon as we bounce into the air with Kaya's burst up, we're not going to be hitting the enemies. However, Kaya would do more personal damage, whereas Leila doesn't really do much damage, but Kaya doesn't buff the team with the way that we build them, whereas Leila would with the instructor set. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of trade-offs here. You know what a safe bet is? I know that we're going to keep using Bennett, and I did not actually mean to make an Ino pun there, I swear. It would be good to increase both his level, but also his burst's talent level. However, I can't do that again until I do ascend him for the final time. And if I need to farm instructor set pieces, this seems like a decent place to spend our regular resin. I kind of miss when bosses were that easy to take down, at least for the sake of these weaker accounts. All it takes is one rotation and the boss is just deleted. I'm also checking for any instructor pieces, of which we have gotten 0 so far. I did manage to get one. Unfortunately, it's a Sans, which is like the one piece that I would probably keep as a 5-star piece so that I could run energy recharge. But you know what? It's progress. Instructor crit rate could be decent if I want to run a Favonius weapon. But then attack percent probably not as necessary. But now we have all the boss drops that we need for Bennett. Now, something that is kind of exciting is that in just a couple of days, we're going to get new banners. And with those new banners, it means we get to go back into the Spiral Abyss and try to test our hand to see if we've made any improvements. Obviously, I don't think we've done too much as we keep swapping around the teams and ping-ponging between building different characters, but maybe we'll be able to actually clear floor 11 this time, though I'm slightly hesitant because I did already do the Spiral Abyss on my main account, and floor 11 seemed like it was gonna be a pain for 4 stars only. I do also have to keep in mind that using the instructor set on Leila requires us to do a specific rotation because the artifact set does not apply off-field. Therefore, I think what I would do is Bennett skill, Bennett burst, then Leila's skill into the burst so she applies the melt, then Rosaria skill, Rosaria burst into Gaming burst. And that should give us our elemental mastery bonus, which it does. Of course, it's only for 8 seconds, and after all that setup, it's probably about 5 seconds, making me question if it's even worth doing, honestly. But I need to do Rosaria last in the rotation because she is the shortest burst time. You know, something that I kind of failed to consider. I could technically put Bennett on the instructor set and then Leila on the noblesse, because if I look at the noblesse pieces that I already have, they pretty much have the exact stats that I would want if they were on Leila. And that's just HP percent main stat with some energy recharge if possible. Knowing me and how I play this game and this account, this is probably gonna change. But I went through and made some alterations to these builds. Okay, so with Favoni's Greatsword, our Gaming is at 180% energy recharge. Rosaria is on 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fates. Not everything is fully leveled up on all of these characters because I just don't have enough fodder right now. And I'm trying to make sure that these are the builds I want to stick with before I dump all my resources into them and then just change them again in 5 minutes. But she's at 221% energy recharge. If that is too much, I can swap her to be on attack percent instead, which still has a decent amount of energy recharge. That'll take some testing to figure out. Leila is on 4-piece Noblesse and has 174% energy recharge, which I hope is enough considering she has a 40 burst cost. Bennett is, he kind of had his build destroyed. He's on a 2-piece instructor because I don't have a feather for instructor and I don't want to take off the ER 5-star sands. If I had a 4-star energy recharge, I would still try it, but I'm not going to go to 0 energy recharge on the sands. So I still need to get that fixed. But the day has just ticked over into the next day. Do not concern yourself with the fact that I'm recording this at 5 a.m. I promise this is a really normal time for people to play Genshin. Even though this team is obviously not very finalized, Bennett is still missing a whole lot. Let's just see how it feels. Oh, well, it kind of sucks when they spawn the enemies away from all my circles, but I do get all my bursts back in time. I also just want to completely ignore the fact that I did that rotation horrendously wrong right there. I need to train my muscle memory to not just spam every skill and burst as soon as I have it up. So I know my rotations are terrible right now. I'm gonna work on that. But from our singular condensed resin that we spent, we can go ahead and ascend Gaming's weapon again and just barely get it to level 80. I almost completely forgot to do this as well, but we can get Bennett's burst up to level 9. I'm noticing that our Mora is very rapidly depleting. So with our remaining condensed resin, I guess I'll go ahead and farm some ley lines and not cry because I'm sure that we'll end up needing these drops anyways. And we obviously need the Mora. Hey, so it's been about 10 minutes and you know what that means? The team has changed again. There are a lot of reasons for it, but basically right now Leila is level 20. It would take me a lot of resin to actually get her up to speed. And even with using her burst, there's still a decent amount of time where Gaming's on the field using his burst and there's no cryo application, which would obviously happen with Kaya too. And I figure if it's going to happen with Leila, might as well happen with Kaya. But also I have basically no instructor pieces. So until I get some of those, I don't want to try to just swap someone to a full instructor set. That's why right now Bennett is back on the Noblesse set and Kaya, it's kind of on nothing. I powered up this piece not expecting much and it actually rolled pretty well so far. Again, I'm completely out of fodder, but I do have some options in terms of a feather on Severed Fates. I know that one person in the comments is going to be absolutely molding by the fact that I'm going to be keeping him on Severed Fates. But my plan is to try to get an attack percent Sands, cryo damage goblet, and then crit rate circlet. If I have enough energy recharge without needing an ER Sands, then I'll run with an attack percent one, and if not, then we'll swap back to that. But he already has 221% energy recharge and his current Sands is not even level 20. So the concern now is Gaming's elemental mastery because nothing is gonna increase it from 35. One thing I could try is that now that we're on a melt team, we get cryo resonance, increasing our crit rate by 15% against enemies affected by cryo. We kind of want that up as much as possible. So let's just assume we have an additional 15% crit rate. Then with the 36% from the artifact set, we'd be gaining 51% more crit rate here. And so I'm thinking I don't like losing, like this is such a good artifact for him, but this one at least gives us both crit rate, crit damage, and some elemental mastery. It could be better to put him on that one instead. We still only have 89. I'm sure a case could be made for an elemental mastery Sands, but with the artifacts that I currently have, This is kind of the best that I can do. All right, so I took some time and I farmed the Cryo Regisvine enough to where I could ascend Kaya. But I also went back and started editing this video. So as I had mentioned previously, I saw the clip again talking about Ian-san on the team, and I was thinking, as long as we can get enough energy recharge onto Rosaria where she always gets her burst off, maybe it is better to try out Ian-san. In which case, our team would look like this. Then what's really important for us is the rotation. I need to actually be smart about this. So the way that we would do it is Bennett skill, Bennett burst, Ian-san skill, normal attack into Ian-san burst, Rosaria skill, Rosaria burst, and then Gaming with the plunging attacks. Okay, we missed both of our first crits. That is great. 63,000, 60,000. And then right here is where Rosaria's stuff runs out. But if I go to Bennett, I use this a little close there, but it still works. We could do that. We get the burst back instantly. Rosaria, again, close, but we do get the burst. And then we go back and we do the same rotation. Now, obviously, this boss goes through this whole gimmick, so I can't really take it out here. But I tried that same exact rotation like 10 minutes ago while I was just figuring this out. And I got all of the bursts back in time. Also, Ariane-san, this stuff isn't leveled. But she's on attack percent, attack percent, attack percent again. And there's ER that could be rolled on two of these pieces, which would help with smoothing out her burst cycles. And we do actually have C1, which I completely forgot about. And that eases her energy recharge requirements a little bit. Oh, plus if we level up this weapon, that's more energy recharge. And our burst is only level 2, meaning potentially there's a lot of extra buffing of Gaming's damage that we can do. It has taken me a very long time to get to this point in terms of picking what characters I want to use, what team I want to use them in, but it feels like this could be a good team. I put the little bit of fodder that I had into these 2 artifacts to get him to level 8, granting her a bit more attack. And then I also just went and swapped the feather in the flower that she's using, because we had some leftover pieces from farming for Auroran that would work pretty decently on her, as we don't care too much about crit. We're more so trying to focus on energy recharge and attack percent. I'm committing. I am committing to this team, level 70, and I can't ascend you yet. However, I think I might be able to. Of course, I have to fight this boss, which I'm not a huge fan of fighting, though we also haven't fought it in a while. Maybe it'll be easier now? Definitely not getting through that part. Okay, time to run. We go up here, where we are nice and safe from the nuke, and then we keep attacking. Still not my favorite boss to fight, but definitely a little bit easier than what I remember. Why does this boss have to go all the way to the wall of the arena? Oh, no, it's gone. I take back what I said earlier. This boss is still so annoying to fight. Half of this fight, I'm just chasing after it. But on the bright side, we got 3 drops every single time. And so I have everything that I need to ascend Ian-san again. Also, apparently, I have enough character XP to level her up to level 80. I'm desperately going to need to farm ley lines for a while. But let's see if we get anything exciting from this Acquaint Fate. I'm just going to guess debate club, because that always seems to be how it goes. It is blue. It is not a debate club. But from this To Temper Thyself and Journey Far event, I just got our 4th Sanctifying Elixir. I don't want to rush to spend it when I don't need to, but I want to keep in mind that we do have it if there comes a point where I feel like there's just one more artifact that I need to finish off a character. Since today is a Sunday, everything is available. I am out of resin, but I do have some fragile resin, and I figure I might as well spend some of it. For the sake of Ian-san's talents, I do have to fight Arlecchino. I do not feel very confident about my chances, but maybe I can squeak out a win. Oh, she just did a lot of damage to me, and I do barely any to her. To be fair, she's a higher level than my entire team. Yeah, I don't think this is happening. We're gonna have to do a lower difficulty. Let's try it at level 80. What? Yeah, 70% crit rate. I just missed 6 crits with Gaming in a row. Cool game. You know, I thought that bringing the Gaming team would be better than bringing the Electrocharge team, but I feel like I was mistaken. I don't have the resistances of this boss memorized, obviously, but at least in the first phase, she was highly resistant to Pyro, that's for sure. When my Gaming's plunge attacks crit and only hit for 5k, it's not a good look. Okay, I was able to beat her on level 80, though it was pretty close. One boss. Okay, if I wanted one boss drop, I would have done it at level 60, and it's not even the one that I needed. I was about to go and farm some artifacts, if for nothing else we get some fodder out of it. However, the next version is in a day and 16 hours, and with that we get a new onslaught, which means we get improved artifact drops technically, and so it's probably better to spend my resin on things that I need now that are not artifacts than wait until the next version to farm for those. In which case, the next order of business for this account is going to be putting these teams to the test in the Spiral Abyss, though obviously we'll do that in a day and 16 hours when the new banners are up. So for right now, our two teams are the Gaming Melt team with Ian-san, and then our Lanyan Electrocharge team with Aino or with Xingqiu, because he's not on a team right now. For the moment, I did give Aino a 4-piece instructor set. Obviously, they're not leveled, though she still has a mostly leveled up ER Sans. And so if I do use her, at least she can somewhat contribute to the team right now. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I shall see you all next time.